Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson, and I'm here with the most relaxed, beautiful young woman I've ever seen.
Ooh, I wonder why that is.
You are free of children.
It's a glorious day, hon.
You are doing your thing.
You're
over 2 weeks into school now.
Yeah, you can't get much better than that as a parent. I'm sure there are a lot of folks out there, and depending on where you live and when you're listening, but we are celebrating the end of a 21. I said 17 weeks last week. It's been 21 weeks
and
of
who's
spring
counting?
Break, summer break. And the beginning of the 2021 school year. So, man, I don't know if you're listening and you're in remote learning phase. Maybe your kiddos haven't gone back yet. But in southeastern Indiana, we are back.
But let it be said, we are praying daily that continues that way. We are definitely kind of on eggshells, wondering if that's going to be able to continue. We're praying for everybody's health, but also praying for boldness from our leadership. I did hear something the other day, and we don't want to take this show sideways, but this was a great statement, because I know a lot of folks that we were talking about are saying, we do not want things shut down. We need to keep going. And it was an athletic director for a particular school, and he said, I want to keep things going too. But until you can guarantee me that you're going to write me the check for the next liability suit that I might be involved with, he goes, I'm not going to make that call. And that's just so true. So liability is driving this probably more so than the disease itself. Nobody wants to get sick, but nobody can afford to be sued. Yeah,
and so we're praying for you and your family out there. We're praying for our leaders. We see you. We know how tough this has been, how long of a season. Oh, my gosh, how long of a season it has been for parents. And I know that schools are important. Our kiddos need it for their mental health and for the learning. So, I don't know, hon, I don't know about you, but I didn't realize how bad I had missed our routines until we got it back. Like, I was sitting in my spot the other day, and I was doing my devotions.
Your spot, your territory.
Yeah, and I remember before COVID hit, that was my quiet time, and I was actually a quiet time. And, I'm sure there's other mothers out there that are trying to find the new quiet spot. Maybe it's a corner of their closet, or maybe it's in the car, in the garage, where the kids don't know where she is. But man, I feel your pain, because in the middle of that quarantine, man, I would just try to go back in our bedroom and try to read or pray. And man, I hear this, mom. And it was like, holy cow, I was losing my ever-loving mind. I really was.
Well, we all find that. We even find the kids that way, that everybody just is tired of being in everybody's business. And so now we kind of want to celebrate the idea that we're starting to see some normalcy. But in the meantime, we want to jump a little bit today from just taking a breath of fresh air to, well, what kind of kids have we been raising?
Yeah.
What kind of kids, if our kids are driving us crazy, especially during the times that we are in right now, why is that?
Yeah.
And again, even the best kids and even the best parents are going to have some conflict. But we're going to talk about what kind of kids we're raising today.
Yeah.
I think it was your idea to decide to label this.
No.
Are you raising a spoiled brat?
No, the title of the show was your idea, so let it be known, okay? So yeah, we're going to talk to mom and dads out there about spoiled brats and how do we keep our kids from becoming one.
Yeah, and spoiled brat is an old term, but now we talk about the entitled child. We talk about those sort of that they deserve or expect everything, and call it what you will, okay? That's not really what we want to get our head wrapped around, as much as Are you preparing your child to be someday a respectful, productive
member of society?
Member of society.
Yeah. So before we do that, we got to pay some bills. So first we want to thank our sponsors. The first one is Mansfield Insurance Agency. They have built a reputation and business on caring, listening, and protecting their customers. Mansfield Insurance Agency began in 1981 by Jim Mansfield and is dedicated to serving individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So if you have any kind of insurance need, call Mansfield at 1-800-230-3927.
All right. We also want to thank Maxwell Construction. Maxwell Construction was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. Since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become among the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state area. What separates Maxwell Construction apart from their competition is their emphasis on being service-oriented to help meet the individual needs of their customers. So for all your construction needs, contact Maxwell Construction today at 812-537-2200.
Yeah, hon. So we thank you for our sponsors, Maxwell and Mansfield Insurance Agency. You know, hon, today's show is an important one, but it's just one of an entire library available for families on all major podcast platforms. So whether it be Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple and Google Podcasts, you know, please share this show. And as you have told us before, hon, giving us a rating helps us to move up on the charts.
Yeah.
And so we really appreciate it if you not just share it, but also give us a rating and let people know that this is worth listening to.
You know, I say it just about every show anymore. We don't even, it's not important that you agree with everything we say. It's important about having the conversation, entertaining the conversations that we have around the microphone here, that you would have those with your spouse, with your family members, because the conversation is what's been missing. And the challenging of each other back and forth is what helps us to grow. So we challenge you to listen to the shows and try to start running them through what we tried, hon. Like, you know, we want to filter everything through God's Word.
Right.
Rock solid families. And so, you know, our opinion is not nearly as important as God's Word.
Yeah. And I had a client just recently who came in for some help, some marital help, and she came in alone because her husband wouldn't come with her, and I gave her some homework, and part of that was listening to some of our podcasts. And hon, she had this epiphany, this aha moment where it's like, wow, for 15 years I've been doing this wrong. Like, I have approached my marriage and approached my husband in a very unhealthy way, but that's how she is.
Not wrong because you told her the right way,
right?
But because of God's Word.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that's all she knew. That's all she grew up with. And so for her to hear about and see a different way, and that it could be more effective and more healthy for her family, it was crazier, because she was like, I never thought that anything could be better than this.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of folks are coming from.
Yeah.
They don't know any different.
Yeah, and again, you know, let's not spend a whole lot of time beating ourselves up over it. Let's figure out how we can straighten it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that takes, as we talk about on so many shows, swallowing our pride, admitting our wrongness, becoming humble, and just seeking out not just somebody's advice, but God's way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, hon, because I was really praying over this show today and just praying for the listeners that would be maybe listening to it later. And hon, there was a verse that came to mind, and I haven't looked it up yet. I think it comes out of Proverbs, but he talks about how the sacrifices of a broken and contrite heart is what he's looking for. It's not the bulls and the goats of the Old Testament. It's not what you think you have to do. It's that broken and contrite heart. It's that humble spirit that the Lord's looking for, and that's what he uses for his glory.
Yeah, the Lord loves those who love him.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, all right, so let's get into a little bit of talking about spoiled brat. This was your topic. I would never call a child a spoiled brat. That wouldn't be me. All right, so let's maybe talk first. We have talked on similar fashions in other shows about raising healthy kids and healthy relationships and those kinds of things. But we're going to be a lot more direct today about just kind of zeroing right in on how we parent kids, okay?
Yeah.
And but a couple disclaimers, like this is not all about whether you're spanking your kids or whether you're holding things back from them. This is about loving. This is about creating the best environment for the long haul for your kid. Okay.
Right.
So right off the bat, we're not talking about newborns here.
Yeah.
How do we handle a newborn?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're talking about today is going to depend on the age of your child. But let's talk first about infants, because as moms and dads, God has called us to love our little ones by meeting their physical needs. So serving them because they can't do for themselves, right? So as a parent, we hold them, we feed them, we change their nasty diapers. Why? Because they can't do it themselves. We get up at all hours of the night to feed crying babies. And hun, there has been people who have said, oh, well, I'm spoiling my newborn. You can't spoil a newborn.
Right.
And so the answer is you need to meet their needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a newborn, they're crying because of a need. And so that is not who we're talking about
Right.
today, okay? Neglecting a newborn. And when they become an infant, more of like 9 to 12 months, you can give your baby a chance to self-soothe a little bit.
Can I stop on that for a second? Because I do think that's an important topic, hon. You and I mean, we've got some grandbabies, right? We're kind of in this mix a little bit from afar, which is a great place to be.
Not too far, though.
Not too far. But this is kind of one of those very first things that that 6, 7, 8, 9 month stage where obviously we're still taking care of the baby for their needs, but that you said that soothing, that self-soothing. And
Right.
you know, this is hard, man. You got a new mom or a dad and that baby's back there just crying and it seems like nothing settles them. At what point do I pick them up? At what
Right.
point do I soothe them? And
Right.
what happens if I do the knee-jerk reaction and as soon as I hear a whimper, I grab them?
Right. And there is a fine line where you start to pull away a little bit. You don't sleep with them. We are not proponents
Man,
of
we
the
could do a whole
family.
show
Oh
on
my
that,
gosh,
couldn't
we
we?
probably should. The family bed is a really popular thing, and we've had some families that have come in and they still have a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old sleeping in the middle of mom and dad. That is not healthy, and it doesn't help them learn to self-soothe and really settle themselves.
Yeah.
You know, always picking them up at every whimper when they are over a year old. That's just something you need to let them figure it out, whether it be that they lost their blankie in their bed or their pacifier fell out of their mouth. You know, it is a little bit of a guessing game because they're nonverbal, but man, please try not to form some bad habits. You know, if every time they cry, you give them a popsicle, they're going to have rotten teeth at the age of 5. So,
Hun, I'm even going to go so far because this is a big thing. This wasn't a big thing when we were raising our older kids, but the sound machines, okay? And so the sound machines, their purpose is to be a soothing, a white noise, okay? One of the things that we are now discovering with that is, yes, they do work, right? But 2, a child will become dependent on that.
Yeah.
And because that's what it takes for their environment to be suitable for soothing.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place because I don't know about you, but you may not always have a sound machine.
right, or blackout curtains.
Yes.
I've seen before where it has to be completely black and you have a glimmer of light coming through the room. And so those are the kind of things that you start to try to interject in their lives so that they're not so dependent on it in an unhealthy way.
No different than a pacifier, right?
Yeah, right.
They have
Yeah.
their place.
Yeah.
They have their place. So we are not saying no to those
Or
things.
never,
what we're
yeah.
saying is have a plan for how you're going to start the weaning off process.
Yeah,
Okay?
I'll never forget when we had one thumb sucker and one pacifier, and I'll never forget looking at that pacifier kid going, you can't go to kindergarten with this pacifier, you know? But I didn't know how to do the thumb sucker because, like, you can't cut the thumb off. Yeah. But, honey, let's talk about the terrible twos because
Yeah.
they start to creep in, and we talk a lot about this with parents.
Yeah,
Can you
well,
tell us a little bit?
That's when the kid will actually start to wear you out because they'll actually be knowingly at their own level of knowingly doing things, knowingly request of you to put demands on you. And so what we really talk about in the terrible twos is the idea that the child is now exploring and seeing that they have things around them in their surroundings that they actually want.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all about self, too.
It's about self, and they're pleasing. Again, man, this is just so in touch with the Bible. They have, and they couldn't put words to this, but they have these bodily, fleshly desires. They now want to touch things. They want to suck on things. They want to taste things.
Yep.
Okay, and they're trying to satisfy their body. Okay.
Right.
And again, we can't blame the child.
Right.
What we have to do, though, is start to realize that this is a time where you actually start teaching.
Yep.
Where you actually start even a little bit of self-control teaching.
Yep.
No, you can't have that now.
Right.
No,
Yes.
this isn't the right time.
Right.
Or, so we actually start to limit some of that. Here's the cool thing, though, hon. This is a part of the teaching that that we can actually start to implement in terms of them being helpers or servants.
Right.
Okay.
And we have 2 biological children, for those that know, and 3 adopted children who we received in our home at 11, 10, and 7. A lot of these things are taught so daggone early that we had to kind of start from square one.
Yeah.
Things that we should have been teaching when they were toddlers that they never learned as a toddler. And so these are things like, for instance, hon, that the world doesn't revolve around them, that they're not going to get every desire that they have, or every time they cry that they get what they want. We got to teach our kids now, or they'll be perpetually stuck in the terrible twos, which we are seeing, by the way, in teens and young adults.
And, hon, they also, you're teaching the child that they have a voice and a hand in taking care of their own problems.
Yeah.
And so at the age of 2 and 3, and actually it's between that age of 2 and 3, that awareness where you can say, hey, do you say you want this toy or whatever, what do you need to go over and get it? What do you need to do? So to start prompting that and starting putting the boundaries on it. We did find ourselves that when our kiddos came into our house, it wasn't that they were never disciplined, it was just very random.
Yes.
And so we didn't realize, like, whoa, you didn't even ask for that.
Exactly.
Or, there was a lot of assuming going on.
Right.
And that got you and I in trouble and got our kiddos in trouble.
Yeah.
So going back and starting to train them up, hey, your toys are all over in the family room over there. Help me clean your toys up.
Yeah. Because Proverbs 22:6 is really true, hon. We start children off on the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not turn from it. So we have to plant those seeds now. Things like you said, putting toys away, sharing their stuff, being socialized with other kids, making sure your no means no. Hun, I have so many parents that come in here and they don't understand why they've got this crazy spoiled brat. Well, it's because the child knows mom made me no the first time, but if you wear her down the 3rd or 4th time, it means yes.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep doing that.
We're not really big in wanting to argue with people and be controversial, but this is a controversial topic, hon. I mean, you and I came through the era. We were brought up where no was used against us, but then we went through an education system where no was starting to be screened out. You couldn't use terms in the negative. It hurts
your self-esteem.
Yeah, you couldn't use the negative terms. You couldn't use no. And what a bad thing to leave your kids with because of the fragility that it has left them with, when the reality is they're going to hear no.
And we're kind of seeing the repercussion of that. Yeah. I'm sorry to say, but that method has not worked.
No, and it's not. I think this was another one of these situations where a little bit of no is all we need, but we took the entire no thing out.
Yeah. And so teach them delayed gratification, that they don't get everything they ask for when they ask for it. It may be that they only, once a week they get this, or special occasions they get that. Don't reward or laugh, by the way, hon. This is a big one, at disrespectful talk. You've got to nip that in the bud. I've seen so many parents that will make fun of or laugh at a kid who, blurts out things to their parents. That would have never happened in my house growing up.
And again, these are learned, not always learned behaviors, but the repeating of them becomes learned based on whether it's acceptable or not. And so we have kiddos that are maybe 4 years old, and when they get mad, they go over and they smack mom or dad. They literally get mad. I don't like you, and they hit them. Yeah. And to just look at them and go, honey, no, you shouldn't do that. No.
With no consequences.
So the child needs to know that is not acceptable, and we need to put the boundary on it.
And some of that, hon, is the way we model how we talk to each other. If you and your spouse are bad-mouthing and talking nasty, yelling at, that's what the kids are going to think is acceptable.
Yeah. How about just how we teach? Even so we're still talking pre-elementary here. Yeah. How about how we teach the kids how to ask for something?
Politely.
Yeah. I mean, The please and thank yous, those are not for the sake of whether you look proper.
Yeah.
Those are for the sake of respecting other people, that other people are valuable. They have time that they have to manage themselves. They're not at your beck and call.
Yeah. And it was funny because when our kiddos came in the house, they did a lot of ordering around. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of statements. Like, give
me this.
Yes, I need to go do this. And so we had to help them understand. You have to reframe it in the form of a question.
Yeah.
That's going to be asked politely, not demanded abruptly. And so that's just common decency that we need to teach our kids now.
Yeah. How about this one? Gosh, this list could go on and on, but we're not. This will be maybe our last one, and then we'll move to a different age group. How about we hear it all the time? He's such a picky eater. So we go to eat at night, and I have to make him his own meal.
Yeah, because he likes his peanut butter with his sandwich all cut off the crust because we're having hamburgers and he doesn't like hamburger. And so you don't make specific special meals for your kids. Don't give in to their demands because all you're doing is creating that spoiled entitled mentality. If they don't like what you're eating, they don't eat that night. Trust me, they're not going to starve.
We hear parents all the time say, if I don't do this, they won't eat anything.
Oh, yeah, they will.
And it's like, yes, no, they will. Yeah. They will. This is so important. We are not the first group of people in the world that kids had to eat a little something that they didn't like.
Speaking of that, hon, and our kids were really bad at this. They would snack so much that they wouldn't be hungry for meals. Yeah. And so we had a limit when they snack. And there's no like dessert or evening snack if you didn't eat your dinner.
Yeah.
So goodness gracious, God forbid they get really hungry, but maybe that next day they'll be more willing to try the dinner because they know they're not going to get junk afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on and take the kids up a little bit older. So now they're coming into school age.
Yeah.
Okay, they're coming into school age, and a lot of things have to happen. I mean, now we're organizing how the schedule rolls in the house as well as outside of the house. So a lot of things go on. And one of the things we talk about is the importance of everybody in the family contributes to the well-being of the family. We all have, in other words, chores.
Oh, yeah. Okay? Share the load.
Yeah, and so sharing the load, the idea is, mom or dad could probably make beds and do laundry and all that. That's not the point.
Right. Yeah. But I've got moms, I can't tell you how many, come in and they are the martyr because they are carrying it all on their shoulder. They feel like they have to do it all. They have to pack all the lunches. They have to do all the laundry. They have to, and I'm like, why are you doing all that?
Yeah.
Have the kids have responsibility. Our kiddos, they pack their own lunch. They pack their own school bag. They check their own homework. Obviously our kiddos are older now, but you got to start them young and trying to do those things on their own.
Yeah, and again, it's not a perfect science. They forget things.
They do.
They mess up. We mess up with it. But the idea of this is a grooming process. Yep. And we're going to go back to the whole idea of by the time you're in elementary, I can ask all of our elementary parents out there, what do you want your kid to grow up into? And, we mentioned this many times on the show. Everybody kind of comes with the same answer. They want their kids to be able to take care of themselves. This is when the training starts.
Yes. And so if your children are in charge of packing their school bag and they forget their lunchbox, you do not drive the lunchbox up. Okay? Yeah. There's always peanut butter that the cafeteria workers will give them, and they'll learn the next time to remember their lunchbox. We have taught our kids that we're not going to save them. Sure, there's every once in a while, but man, if you make this into a habit, this is definitely something that is a slippery slope.
Yeah, can I say, hun, that it is so important, Mom and Dad, that your kids know what the consequences are going to be beforehand. Okay, that way they actually get to assess, is it worth me doing this or not? Okay,
exactly.
And then when things are not met, when expectations aren't met or chores not completed, the consequence is absolutely implemented.
Yep.
Okay, and it's not, well, if you do it again.
Right.
No. The warning came in advance.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So we're not going to play this game. And
right.
this is a gift to your child.
Yes.
They don't have to like wonder that they become very clean with the idea of, nope, it's not worth it. Not
Yeah.
going to do it. Don't
Yeah.
want to pay that price
Yeah.
for it.
Speaking of paying the price, hon,
Oh,
we really
baby.
believe the whole monetary part of this is where spoiled brats really come from. The whole idea of starting a save, spend, give plan now, whether it be with a regular allowance or opportunities that they have to earn money. But please give them ownership in the things that they really want. So if they want those really expensive pair of shoes, if they want that scooter or that skateboard, that they are investing in it. Don't just be like, oh, okay, honey, because man, it doesn't stick very long when it's just handed to you right and left.
You know, hon, this was not our idea, so I don't want to take credit for it. I believe it was probably through John Roseman's work. I forget exactly because we've done it for so long. But what we have done with money for our kids and how they get money, I think has been one of the most useful practices that we do. We hear all the time parents say, I feel like I'm just an ATM for my kid, okay? And we can put an end to that right now. Hun, I think it's worth us sharing what we do.
Yeah, we have a whole show on this, by the way.
Yeah.
Allowances and chores.
It's worth mentioning for the idea of, because money is where that spoiledness and entitledness often stem from, okay?
Yep.
So you want to describe a little bit like how we handle money and why we do it this way?
Yeah, and we've done this with we have 5 kids, 29 through 12, and we've done this since our kiddos were young, where they get $1 for every year that they are, and every week. So, for instance, if you're a 12-year-old, you get $12 a week. But in that $12, you have to put $2 away for savings. We just kind of rounded it 10%.
Yeah.
$2 for savings and $1 for giving. And so the giving goes into an offering or something that we donate to somebody. But then the rest is for them for spending. But hun, we tell our kiddos, when we go to a ball game, we're not buying you concession stand. When we go to Walmart, we're not buying you a toy. Yeah. When you go to the ice cream parlor, like their money is how they want to spend it. But we let them do that. But they got to know it only goes so far.
Yeah, like our wallet does not open for those expenses. And listen, they learned that the hard way.
They sure did.
Because they get a little extra money in their pocket and they're blowing it. And the next thing you know, they do want something fun. Or they want to upgrade the shoes that they're getting.
Yep.
And you're like, well, that's fine. That's cool. How much money do you have in your account? And, well, I don't have anything. Okay, well.
Then you're not buying the $150 shoes.
Again, let's be straight here. The idea is we are the ones supplying their money, okay?
Right, we are.
But they are having to manage their money.
Right.
And if they manage it poorly, that is on them. And that is the gift right there, that they have to learn the self-control.
Yeah, we've kind of come up with a policy for school shoes. Let's example, it just happened where our kiddos want $150, $200 shoes.
No way.
Yeah, I know. It's so bizarre because they're going to last like 2 months. But anyway, so that's what they want. Well, my policy is that our policy is we'll pay $50 toward your school shoes. And so if you want to spend your hard-earned money that you're saving or working for $200 shoes, then go ahead. And so we've had one of our kiddos do that, which is so funny because the $200 shoes changed to the $120 shoes because they decided it wasn't worth it.
The money.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it's their money.
Now, with that being said, we don't hold that over their head and things that we know are necessary.
Sure.
Sports that they're playing, we cover those. We cover book bills. We cover those kind of things. But we're talking about expenditures that are particular to them, that are kind of above and beyond.
Yes, exactly.
All right. You know what? This show could go on forever.
It sure could.
But we do want to touch on this topic. So, because these are coming. I used to think that this was strictly a teenage topic. This next subject. But it's not. It's an elementary topic, and that is the whole phone thing.
We've done a whole show on this, too.
We've done an entire show on it, and I'm telling you, it just continues to be a struggle for parents. And we have not run into a parent yet that says, that's the greatest thing I ever did to my kid. I gave my third grader a phone. It's been fantastic. We're not saying at all. Please don't get back on us with saying phones aren't good. No, phones are amazing. Mm-hmm. It's how we use them that becomes the potential
and the guilt
problem.
The parents are feeling for a couple reasons. One, they don't want their child to be the only one in the class that doesn't have a phone. And two, God forbid if something would happen to the child that they needed to call you. Come on, let's be real. If you have a third or fourth grader, how many times are they going to be completely alone without somebody around that has a phone? Yeah. Our daughter even tried to use the fact that what if she got kidnapped? Oh, goodness gracious. But, I would love for parents to check out this book called The Collapse of Parenting by Dr. Leonard Sachs. Hun, it was an amazing read, and it really was an eye-opener. And he's a pediatrician that had seen kids for decades, 4 decades. And one of the things he said that really stuck with me was the minute you hand your child a phone or another ability, for instance, like an iPad or an iPod, and they have the ability to reach out to friends, you lose, as a parent, your position as the primary voice of your child. Yeah. Now think about that. Do you really want to lose your authority and your voice at third grade? Yeah. Do you really want them to turn to their fourth grade buddy to find an answer or solve a problem instead of you? Mm-hmm. I mean, that was eye-opening to me, because it's true. That child is going to go around you mm-hmm. to get what they're looking for.
Yeah, especially at young ages. Yes. When we allow them to get into social media using that phone.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, so anyway, Hannah, I think this really a huge topic. There's so much more on that. There's the whole concept that we've tried to push. We waited till our kids are 15. But there's a whole movement out there. I think it's called Wait Until 8.
Yes.
Basically waiting to 8th grade.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's waituntil8th.org, where you literally take a pledge as a parent saying, hey, we're going to commit now while they're in first grade that we're not going to give them a smartphone. If you really feel the need for texting, maybe you have a blended family and they're going back and forth, just give them a flat out flip phone where they don't have access to the internet and all of the garbage that's out there.
Yeah. All right, so let's move into the teenage years, because a lot of these things can continue to keep rolling as we get up into these years. Yeah. So the same idea here is them understanding their part in this. Mm-hmm. What are they going to contribute? Not what are you going to contribute to them, but what are they going to contribute? Okay, right. And so we have this. Actually, it's written on our dry erase board at home. Discipline equals freedom, right? And that came from after a very heated discussion one night. But that whole idea that in the teenage years, they start to understand that they can get things they want when they begin to self-discipline. Right, okay? Right. And what a key thing here. Remember, you discipline now with the idea that you're going to pray that turns into them disciplining themselves. That's self-discipline.
And, hon, I'm sure there's going to be listeners out there who have teenagers who they have already let the cow out of the barn, and now they're thinking, oh, okay, this is a great idea, and it's going to rock their teenagers' world if they have not done these practices that we've talked about early on. And so you're going to have to really get a plan, and you're going to have to be super ready to stick with it. I would get you and your spouse on the same page, or your ex on the same page, and make sure that you have what you're going to say when they have 1,000,001 reasons and excuses why, like our daughter did. What if I get kidnapped? I kind of laughed, and then she was like, you don't even care. And I was like, oh, goodness, I had not been prepared for that one. Yeah. But, they're going to try every angle, and they are expensive, and they need to have an investment into this.
Yeah. I think another thing is we're raising teenagers, and I think the more that you stick to your guns and you become somewhat predictable, the idea that your kids know that you're not going to mix up or change your value system based on their age. Mm-hmm. If something is inappropriate in your house, whether it's watching certain kinds of movies or excessive drinking or whatever it is, that your values in your family are your values.
Yep.
And we don't change it just because all of a sudden they're 16 and we're like, oh yeah, you can freely drink, or, we don't change who we are.
Right. I had this conversation with a mom just the other day because their teenage daughter, and she's a single mom, and she's pushing the boundaries. She's pushing the boundaries of what she's allowed to do, whether it be have a boyfriend spend the night, or smoking pot in the basement, or mom buying her beer. And it's like mom doesn't agree and believe in those things. So why is mom giving in? Because she's getting that pressure. She's feeling like I'm the worst mom in the world if I don't.
Yeah. So all along in this whole process, we're talking about trying to teach our kids to be servants of more than just themselves. And so I think so often this is important, especially as we get into those teenage years where we become hyper-focused on the different things that we want. Kids get excited, new opportunities to do things. There's some neat milestones with driving and stuff like that come along. And we want them to celebrate that. Like we tell our kids, we love when you have freedom. I mean, it's good for everybody. But the idea here of us knowing that they have to be serving our home and be good people in the meantime. So very, very important stuff there.
Yeah. And if you've done the above well that we talked about, you're giving your young adult wings to fly, and they will have learned about delayed gratification and saving and giving and serving others. But hun, if you have not done this well, or if you are just now trying to figure it out, oops, man, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off of an old wound. It has to happen, though, for it to heal right.
Yeah. So as we start to kind of round things out, the whole idea here is us gifting our kids, gifting them what it takes to have a good life, or the opportunity for a good life, and that personal responsibility. And, the entitlement, we've said this before in other shows, we get upset with kids being entitled or preaching this entitlement, and we need to just look in the mirror. Yeah. As parents, we've set our kids up for that. And what a great opportunity we have to stop the entitling and give them the tools to walk and to do their thing and take care of themselves.
Yeah. So Mom and Dad, we're asking you to evaluate and ask yourself some tough questions that need to be asked. Does my child carry his or own load, or am I carrying it all for them? Or do I set appropriate boundaries and expectations for my child based on their age? And hun, as you have said many, many times, is what you're doing right now as a parent setting your kids up for success later?
Yeah, well, speaking of later, we're going to talk about the later part. We're going to talk a lot about the young adults, but we're going to do that next week because that in and of itself is a whole nother program.
Yes.
And so we want to do it justice, and so we're going to wrap things up. So, hon, let's thank our sponsors, and let's get ready to reel out of this.
Yeah, we want to close by thanking our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. Please let them know how much you appreciate this programming and the difference it's making. Hun, like you said, we're going to continue this conversation next week on our late teens, young adults, and how do we launch them into success. So we hope you'll share this show and tune in next week for Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.